Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour as it is revenge week for the Philadelphia Eagles in week 8 of the National Football League as the Eagles are set to host the New York Giants, and it's the first Kelly Green game of the season. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's going on, man?
As I've said on our Twitter feed, this is somewhat biasedly our favorite weeks of the year when we get to do outside of Dallas weeks. I think Kelly Green obviously would be our favorite weeks because we are the Kelly Green Hour. So our name kind of derived from when we started podcasting together, there were no Kelly Green games. It was the petition to bring back the Kelly Green jerseys, and now the Kelly Green jerseys are back. Now we get 3 games a year. It's awesome. I love it. I'm excited for this matchup. You know, we saw some things head in the right direction last week. Of course, we're going to get into it, but missing a few bodies this week may be a challenge, but I sure hope that revenge is served appropriately.
Yeah, let's hope. And obviously, before we jump into the game and our expectations and we get to predictions, our Unheralded Player of the Week and all that, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHarrell54. Follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpull Network. And if you're joining us live, let us know in the comments section your prediction, your players of the week, keys, anything that you want us to discuss during this episode. Just let us know and we will. So, Connor, let's start off with the big news. It's the injury news. The bye week is coming at the right time for the Eagles. It's after this Giants game, but A.J. Brown's out. Cam Jurgens is out. Adoree Jackson's out. Azeez Ojulari's out. Jacorian Bennett's not playing. His window opened. Brandon Graham's not playing yet. He'll most likely make his debut in Green Bay after the bye, or his re-debut, I should say. I don't think I missed. I think there's might be another one or two. But I think the 2 big ones obviously are AJ Brown and Cam Jurgens, because it looks like Brett Toth is going to start at center, and he got bullied last week against Minnesota. And we know that the strength of the New York Giants defense is their defensive line led by Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, who says he's going to play. Kayvon Thibodeau. They have a lot of weapons up front, and they can make things hard for the Eagles. And when Brett Toth is in there, things don't look great for that offensive line. So hopefully the Eagles, are able to schematically help out Toth if he is going to be the starting center.
Yeah, things for the offensive line haven't looked that great this year when healthy. So, you throw Brett Toth into when he was in for Dickerson, the offensive line looked worse. When he went in at center, the offensive line looked worse again, but the offense looked a little bit better because it forced them under center and not constantly running the ball from under center, which seems to be the dead giveaway whenever they would line up under center with Cam Jurgens. It was basically a run play. Now with Brett Toth there, he's not a good shotgun snapper, so it gave them the opportunity to kind of force them to do different things on offense with their passing game. So I guess that could be the only one benefit to having him there. My logic throughout all this week has been anyone but Toth. I feel like, they brought in Opeta, but I feel like Opeta is more of like a backup plan for left guard because they're going to have to put Toth in at center. I think they could bring Kendall into the mix. I think they can make him an active starter and let him play. He played almost all of his college career, if not all of his college career, as a center. He's a guy you can trust to snap the football. He's a guy you can trust to block. He knows the position. To me, you can't get any worse than what we've seen in 2 weeks of Brett Toth being out there for 50+% of the snaps in both of those games. The A.J. Brown one obviously is huge. I think that we've seen A.J. Brown, us without A.J. Brown in the past, and us without A.J. Brown is about as bad as us without Lane Johnson. The records correlate very poorly when we are without A.J. Brown and when we are without Lane Johnson. So that's definitely a major. I get it. Has the season been frustrating? Has he said some things that the media is running with? Absolutely. He's making some noise where maybe there doesn't really need to be noise. But at the end of the day, he's an important piece of this team. He draws a lot of attention from not just a cornerback, but also usually a second person, usually a safety. So he usually draws at least 1.5 to 2 bodies his way. And now without him, it looks like Darius Cooper, it's surprising because Darius Cooper's window did not open at the same time as Ja'Cory Bennett. It opened the next day after the first practice that AJ Brown did not practice. And so I think they knew that they needed to get somebody in play, and Darius Cooper may not have wanted to be back this week, but I think he's being pushed into the situation where he has to be back because obviously we're down Johnny Wilson as well. Now we're down AJ Brown. Now all you have is really Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson at wide receiver. But no matter what, even Darius Cooper throwing him into the mix, AJ Brown is such a massive loss, and Cam Jurgens they're both the biggest losses. Azeez Ojulari is what it is.
I mean, the Azeez, when it comes to Azeez Ojulari, it only hurts because there's only 3 edges on the roster right now.
And that's the issue. Yeah, that's the issue, is we're really light there. And I was really, really hoping that Ja'Cory Bennett would get the opportunity this week because, Howie doesn't have another game after this to make a decision. This is the deciding game where he has to say, okay, what are my needs? What do I need to get at the trade deadline? Because I don't get another shot at this. So I was really hoping Ja'Cory Bennett would get his opportunity. Of course, Ja'Cory Bennett's not going to get his opportunity. We're going back to the Keely Ringo show. And I mean, at this point, if Bennett's not good to go,
Mac McWilliams should be up too.
Mac McWilliams should be up, definitely. I think at this point you have to address CB2. You're not going to get another opportunity. This is it. You might as well address CB2 and edge ahead of the trade deadline. And with the trade deadline looming, the unfortunate thing is we lost the chance to see Ja'Cory Bennett. But I really think Howie was holding out hope that Bennett would be able to come in this game, show something, and then just kind of shrug off CB2 as a need, but it's definitely a need.
Ewing, thank you for joining us. What's going on? Yeah, and like I said, like we were saying, when it comes to the defensive line room, the edge room, I mean, it's Jalix Hunt, Patrick Johnson, and Josh Uche. We're going to see, I'm assuming we're going to see a lot of Jahad Campbell because Nakobe Dean looked really good last week against Minnesota, so he'll get more playing time this week next to Zach Baun. Again, you want to put your best 11 on the field. That includes all 3 linebackers. We're going to have Jalen Carter this week. We didn't have him against the Giants 2 weeks ago. That should help. You would assume Quinyon Mitchell will play the entire game. He got hurt in the middle of that game against the Giants, so that should help. When it comes to the Giants and who you have to stop Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbill. It's the same receivers that they had when we played them 2 weeks ago. So while Jordan Humphrey and Darius Slayton kind of did abuse Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson, like, you have to play better. You have to play better. And I would be worried if, with this game being right before the bye, I think I said this in our last episode when I was previewing this, I would be worried if, going into the bye, if we had lost to that, or if we had beaten them 2 weeks ago. But since we lost to them, you do not want to get swept by the Giants. I mean, getting swept by the Giants is awful. So you want to go into the bye at 6-2 on a high note. So you have to come out swinging, and obviously not having AJ Brown and Cam Jurgens hurts, but this is where having, Devontae Smith helps. Now, where it hurts is you don't have another Devontae Smith to be the number 2 receiver. It's going to be Jahan Dotson, John Mechie, Darius Cooper. Like, it's going to be that. So the Giants can now keep their extra eyes on Devontae Smith in the receiving game. This is where Dallas Goedert is going to have to step up for the Eagles and become a big part of the offense again. And hopefully, we get Jahan Dotson open downfield, get Mechie involved. If Darius Cooper does see some playing time, get him involved a little bit. But I want to see 20 targets for Devontae Smith. I don't care. Like this, if there's a game that you're going to go out there and, force feed the ball to somebody, it should be this one. If you're not handing the ball off to Saquon, which again, the first drive of that last Giants game, Saquon had the first 2 carries went for 31 yards, and then he had like 27, 28 yards the rest of the game. This should be the game that you should feed Saquon and you should run the ball right down the Giants' throat. Your run defense isn't good. We made them look good 2 weeks ago. Now run it down their throat. And, the Giants are coming off of a fourth quarter in which they gave up 33 points. So, hopefully, that they're going to want to show that was a fluke, but you should, if you punch them in the mouth early on, maybe they'll be like, oh God, here we go again. And they may give up early in the game, and it could be a runaway. I don't know if the Eagles are good enough right now to blow teams out, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for just a win to go into the bye, but hopefully the Eagles are able to, continue with the consistency, or build on the passing game from last week and figure out the running game, because that hasn't gotten going. There's no reason for Saquon to be averaging less than 60 yards a game so far this year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on the Saquon Barkley front. I think we're still looking for an identity on offense. We're still looking to find that balance between a good passing game, getting that rushing attack going again, getting that offensive line playing as a unit and consistently again. Of course, without Cam Jurgens, that's going to be a difference maker as well. But at the end of the day, we seem to do only certain things right. We can never seem to put it all together as an offense, and then we leave a lot on the defense to try and make some plays. We have a stretch every game where we do very quick 2 or 3 and outs that leave the defense completely gassed and giving up points and not looking like themselves. So I think it's going to be really important to, I know that Saquon Barkley doesn't care about the stats. Saquon Barkley doesn't care about a lot of things, but we know that Saquon Barkley, as unselfish as he may be, we want him to take the ball. We want him to be selfish. We want him to get back to the Saquon Barkley that he was last year. At this point, he's a shell of what he was last year. And whether that's because of the offensive line, whether that's because of the play calling, I don't care to point the finger at who it is. There's a number of different things that are at play that are causing issues for this offense. And Saquon Barkley needs to find those holes, hit those holes, and just figure out how he can make things right for himself. We've seen Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown A.J. Brown made a couple of plays that were off script last week. Devontae Smith called his number on a specific play last week. So you have to you kind of have to take control yourself, take power into your own hands, because Kevin Patullo is not going to, at least at this point, it doesn't appear Kevin Patullo is going to put people in the right position to succeed. Oh.
Am I back? Can you hear me, Connor?
You're back. You're good.
Sorry. Technical difficulties. But yeah, we would like to see Kevin Patullo figure it out, can get consistent. Obviously, the pass, the first touchdown last week the initial route for A.J. Brown was terrible. And then it took A.J. and Jalen kind of playing schoolyard ball and making it up on the fly to get the touchdown. So hopefully they hadn't had A.J. Brown in practice all week, so they've been able to work new guys in, with Devontae being the number one guy. And, you go from there. If, in the passing game, looking at this Giants defense, we talked about the front line, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, who's questionable, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. We know that what they have at the front, on the front line, but there's injuries in the secondary. Paulson Adebo is out. Javon Holland is doubtful. He probably will play, but being doubtful on a Friday isn't a guarantee. They should be able to. In the game 2 weeks ago, they had guys open. Jalen just missed them. Missed Devontae, which would have been a big play. So, it missed. Again, I'm still iffy on the interception. He could have maybe hit AJ in the corner of the end zone. Could have made big differences, but you cannot turn the football over, and you have to keep things consistent and stay ahead of the sticks on the offensive side of the ball. And you do not want to give a team like the Giants, who you are clearly better than, even though they beat you 2 weeks ago, like if you keep them in the game, that gives them the confidence that they can do it. And with the way the Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo are rejuvenating the offense and that that organization with the Giants, like that, having a quarterback. And I'm not saying Jackson Dart's good. I don't know if he's good yet. I'm not a big fan, but just having that belief can mean a lot to a locker room.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen this many, many times before with teams where they get their guy into the mix. They get their rookie quarterback in sooner than expected, ahead of schedule, and they start really. Look at C.J. Stroud, for example. You get some of these guys in, they drive the team. They give you a lot of hope, and then, of course, I'm not saying this is going to happen to Jackson Dart, but we see the C.J. Stroud kind of sophomore, well, I think he's in his third year now, but the third year slump, we're starting to see a bit of a slump in that team and with that quarterback. I don't watch enough Texans games to pinpoint if CJ Stroud is a problem or if somebody else is a problem. But the point is, those situations come up, and there's a lot of hype that comes with getting the opportunity to be that guy. And we're seeing it with Cam Scatterboo. He, at the start of the season, Tyron Tracy was a guy. Tracy got hurt. Scatterboo took over, and he's not looking back. Obviously, his run style probably isn't conducive to a long career in the NFL and to sustained success in the NFL. But obviously, New York Giants have a lot more hope and faith. This is probably the most hope and faith they've been able to have since the Eli Manning days in New York. So I do not blame them for being excited. I do not blame them for the hype that they're putting on Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo. And obviously that defensive front, like you said, is an amazing defensive front. You can probably lean into for the future, although obviously there are some pending contracts and free agent situations that may split up some of that defensive line if they're not willing to pay up. But I mean, you still have such a bright future at certain positions. There's some areas that need improvement, obviously, but this is not, like you said, this is not a Giants team to just disrespect, and they showed that a couple weeks ago. Don't overlook them. They're definitely a team that can make life, while they're not going to win the division, they in theory can make life extremely difficult for other people in the division. We could look back at some of these games with the Giants and the Cowboys, Giants, Commanders, Giants, and Eagles, and that is the deciding factor in who wins this division this year, because they can make a big difference. You never disrespect a divisional opponent, no matter how bad they are. We've seen, the Miami miracle that happened for the Miami Dolphins when they were absolute garbage against the New England Patriots. You just don't know what types of things can happen, especially when you're up against divisional opponents. But especially this Giants team, we've seen them come back. We've seen them blow massive leads, but they are not a team that you want to keep hanging around. If you can make it a 2 or 3 score game, you can probably feel quite a bit more comfortable. But obviously, that's going to become a lot more challenging with some of the bodies that we're missing this week.
And you mentioned how, like, you got to win these games. If the Eagles would have beat the Giants that first time, they would be 6-1 right now, leading the conference. There are so many teams that are like in the mix. Green Bay's 4-1-1. They lead the conference. Then you have the Eagles, Tampa, the Rams, the Lions, and if maybe one other team that are all have 5 wins. The Seattle, so the Niners, like the Niners. So, and the Eagles have beaten Tampa, have beaten the Rams, have beaten Dallas, who is 3-1 right now, if I'm not mistaken, and they go to Denver this week. And then after the bye, you have the Green Bay and the Lions, the Cowboys, the Bears. Like, just, you have to stack wins. So let's hope that loss 2 weeks ago doesn't come back to bite the Eagles, because they're going to be battling down to the wire for home field advantage. And we saw what home field advantage did against Washington last year in the NFC Championship game. Who knows what would have happened if Detroit won that game and the Eagles had to go to Detroit for the NFC Championship game. Not many teams want to come to the Link in January and play the Eagles with this rabid fan base. So you have to come out and win these games, win these conference games. That's what's important. The Eagles have 2 losses. One is an AFC loss. The other is a division and conference loss, obviously. So it's very important that, they come away with a split with the Giants, and if you happen to lose to the Giants this week, while the Giants may not win the division this year, like, they have all the confidence in the world going forward and going into next year. Like, if they're able to get a top flight, if they beat the Eagles this week with the trade deadline looming, like, there's all this talk of them wanting to go out and get a top flight receiver, whether it be, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, any of these top guys that are out there on bad teams that could potentially be traded. Like, they're going to think that they can go all in with a chance to win this division. So that's how important this game is. You cannot look past the Giants to, like, the bye week to be like, good, we get 2 weeks off, we could try to get healthy. No, you have to win this game first and foremost.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, when you look at this team statistically, the only thing they do really well is run. They are a very good running team. They rank among the top 10 teams as far as rushing goes. Otherwise, their passing offense is middle of the pack. Defensively, across the board, they're ranked like 25th or worse almost across the board. One thing that plays massively to the Giants' favor, and I kind of alluded to it in the last game, is they rank 5th in starting field position. They have a very, very strong kick return guy in Deonte Banks, one of the top in the league, and that definitely leads to them getting such optimal field position. But I mean, in no way am I trying to disrespect the Giants, but the Giants are statistically a very bad football team. Defensively, they are a very bad football team, despite the front four that they have. Despite everything that Jackson Dart is doing, the passing offense still isn't all that great. This is a matchup we should have won last week or 2 weeks ago. This is a matchup we need to win this week. You cannot, like you said, losing to the Giants and being swept by the New York Giants would just be such a massive kick in the face for this Philadelphia Eagles team. Sitting at the record that we're at 5-2, going to 5-3 isn't the end of the world, but based on everything this team is going through, the kind of identity crisis that they're going through, the situation that they're going through offensively, some of the issues behind the scenes that seem to be percolating, losing to the Giants a second time would probably be a nail in the coffin for them for where to go next, where to go with their identity. What are we going to do next? And not that 5-3 is the end of the world. I mean, there's a lot of parity in the NFC right now. This is a very competitive division. We're lucky enough that our division, or a very competitive conference, we're lucky that our division is probably one of the less than stellar ones that you can kind of take advantage of. But, once the Commanders
Hey, Connor, you there?
for this Eagles team, and like how important this game is cannot be understated.
So we lost you for like 20 seconds there, Connor, but you're back. It froze up and didn't hear what you said, unfortunately. Where the heck was I going to go? I don't even know anymore. Oh, so
it's just vitally important this game, because anything can happen. Like you said, you open the door at all for anybody in this conference or in this division, they're gonna go for it. And you don't want to be the one. This is famously the division that has not had a repeat champion in 21 years now. And so that you do not want to leave that window of opportunity open for anybody, because they could be willing to go out and make the move that Howie is still questioning, do I make the move? Because like you said, the Giants, their receiving core is absolutely brutal, probably plays in large part to why they are a really poor passing offense. But if they get this win or they see an opportunity to go for one of those big wide receivers and they fill that void, who knows what could happen? And it's anybody at this point. I think the Giants are 2-5 right now, but they're still more than capable of wreaking havoc and maybe potentially taking this division, even though they're currently 3 games back.
I don't think they'll win the division, but they can definitely play spoiler to the teams ahead of them. And then if you look at Dallas, they're in position where, say, if they beat the Broncos and they beat whoever they play next week, I don't know off the top of my head, that would put them at 5-3-1.
5-3-1, yep.
And they have 2 first-round picks to play with the trade of Micah Parsons, and that they want defensive help. There's all that talk of them trying to trade for Max Crosby, who's not going to get traded from the Raiders. But there's a bunch of names out there, Trey Hendrickson, guys that they could potentially bring in to help them on the defensive side of the ball as they begin to get healthier. With Damari and Overton, probably going to be back not this week, but maybe within the next couple of weeks. So, it's just it's
overshown.
Overton, same thing, whatever. If they can look to make a run, and with the way that offense is playing right now, but their defense is one of the worst defenses in football. So, Jerry might want to go out there and use some of his draft picks to help, on their defensive line to get a pass rusher, which is funny because they traded a pass rusher, for the draft picks. Going to our defensive side of the ball, we mentioned Jalen Carter is going to be playing this week. We're very light at defensive end. Azeez Ojulari is out. Brandon Graham won't be playing. So you can expect to see Jahad Campbell there to put, Nakobe Dean on the field next to Bond. No Adoree Jackson. So Keely Ringo is going to get the start on the outside opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. Cooper DeJean is obviously there too if they decide, if the Giants decide to go two receivers, maybe they'll bump Cooper to the outside and get Keely Ringo off the field, depending on how he's playing. Mac McWilliams should be available. He hasn't been active the last couple of weeks. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Josh Uche is going to have to play big. He's going to play a lot of snaps. We know Jay Lixon had that pick 6 last week. We'll see if he's able to. The big key is going to be containing your lanes against Jackson Dart. He ran for the had a couple of big runs against the Eagles 2 weeks ago. The touchdown where he was able to shake Zach Bong. You mentioned it earlier. Their offense is the running game, and it's going to be off the back of Dart and Scattaboo. So hopefully the Eagles, now that there's tape out there, they've played them once. They kind of know what to expect when they're out on the field. Let's hope that the Eagles are able, defensively, Vic Fangio is able to devise a game plan to slow these guys down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that not having Jalen Carter in the last game, that's a huge thing, because a guy like Jordan Davis, who's generally a really good run stopper, has to focus on being more than just a run stopper. It puts a lot more pressure on some guys to do some things that maybe they're not necessarily always that great or that consistently good at. So I think that having Jalen Carter back is going to be huge to stop in that run game, and having people be able to, obviously Jalen Carter constantly eats up 2 people. We know that he's going to eat up 2 offensive linemen. He's going to take up a lot of offensive line attention, and that's going to be a benefit for guys like Moro Jomo, Jordan Davis, Ty Robinson, if he plays, which he likely will be available and playing with how short they are at the edge position. It's going to be interesting to see what they do for who they pull up from the practice squad. All we have is, I think, Titus Leo and Antoine Power Island. But
it'll probably be Power Island.
Yeah, I think Power Island's going to get his opportunity to come up. And I think that no matter what, Uche and Hunt are going to be out there for a very, very large chunk of snaps. And they're going to have to make some plays, and they're going to have to find a way to be consistent. And I agree with you. Making the tackles is going to be so vital. We saw so many, I can't remember the exact number, but I think we reached double digit for missed tackles the last time we played the New York Giants. For some reason, 12 feels like the number. And we can't be that high in missed tackles. You have to make your plays. You have to keep the guy in front of you. Even if, for that Jackson Dart play with Zach Bond, if he's able to just keep him in front of him for just a couple more seconds, that's all the time you need to get that reinforcement there to help you out. So just not to get shaken and stirred the way that, Zach Bond did on that play is so important. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why you can't have a guy like Cooper DeJean move to the outside, is because you need him in there to make some of those plays and keep people honest. Keep a guy like Cam Scatterbo and keep Jackson Dart honest, because they know how consistent of a tackler he is, the form that he has, his anticipation towards making a play and making a tackle. Well, I mean, I hope that we can trust Keely Ringo for one more week, because after this week, hopefully Howie addresses CB2, or, Jacorian Bennett's definitely going to get an opportunity here at some point. So it's all a matter of how badly does Howie think a CB2 is necessary for this team down the backstretch and to make a playoff and Super Bowl run again. Hopefully he sees it to the same degree as we do. I think edge is probably more important than CB2. But I mean, I think I would not hate to have bodies added at both of those positions and shoring those up. But
and I think a lot of that's going to have to do with this week. If you lose this week, does Howie want to add to the team? Like, is it worth trading draft picks, trading assets for guys? Obviously we have a window, because winning the Super Bowl last year, we do have a window. But if you lose to the Giants twice in 3 weeks, while you may be in first place because of your record, like that, this right after the bye is another gauntlet of games. And then if you lose, does Howie go into Sirianni's office and say, we have to make a change at the coaching position? Like, we have to get Nick Patullo, depending on how the offense looks, Kevin Patullo cannot be calling plays. We need to make a change there. Something needs to change. And like, if that were to happen, I'm not saying it's going to happen, like, that's 2 offensive coordinators in 3 years that Nick has promoted and have failed. Obviously last year it was Kellen Moore, and that was, let's be honest, that was a Howie and Lurie hire. So we'll see what happens. But like, that's why this game is huge, because a lot of implications in the trade market. Do you improve the team? Our coach is going to be let go because it's just the bye. If there's a perfect time to do it, it's during the bye. So like, you have to come with the best game plan, and you have to, put your best effort out there. And again, it's the Kelly Green. In this iteration of Kelly Green uniforms, the Eagles are undefeated. So, you obviously want to keep that up. They're averaging like 34 points a game. So, you don't want to go out there and assume, like, maybe they went out and assumed 2 weeks ago that if they show up, they'll beat the Giants. Well, that obviously didn't happen. So you can't do that. And you know that the Giants have new life with Dart and Scatterbo. So you want to go out there and show that show that you're still the top dogs in the NFC East.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, if you lose this game, there are so many questions. Like, we focused on the trade aspect of it, and how do you address, what positions do you address via the trade? But you bring up a great point with Kevin Patullo, is, okay, at what point if we see the same old song and dance again? I know that you're without AJ Brown, which I hate that prospect, because it kind of feels like, Kevin Patullo is something to lean on if there's a lack of success, although there hasn't been much success on the passing side of the ball anyways. But it feels like a way to lean in to say, well, I didn't have one of my best offensive weapons. Give me another chance. But at what point do you start to say, okay, when do we need to hand the reins of the play calling over? When do we need to do something about the play caller and the playbook that we're playing with? Because, I mean, we're 7 weeks in, and we've consistently been able to put up a quarter or two of good, offensive football. And then outside of that, we've been extremely inconsistent through the other 2 to 3 quarters of every game. And you can't continue to do that, because if you do that come playoff time, there's certainly a team that is going to outplay you in that way. And like, well, the Dallas Cowboys may have a bad defense. They have an offense that can absolutely go pound for pound if you're not putting points up. The Detroit Lions, same thing. The Green Bay Packers, same thing. There's a lot of teams that can pound for pound put the points up when they need to. And do we trust that this offense can put the points up and do the necessary stuff to get a W? Right now, we've had to lean way too much into last week. That was good. It was a nice step in the right direction, but how much of that was their hand forced because of injuries in different situations within the offense, and how much was that just a genuine realization of, oh wow, that some of this stuff works. Oh wow, we can make some things work with this offense in certain situations. I don't necessarily know what to believe from there, but I'm not going to sit there and say Kevin Patullo figured it out last week. And this is a game, we talked about it when we were about to play the Giants a couple weeks ago, that this is a game to get things right. And again, I feel this is a game that you need to get things right. I'm not worried about the defense so much. There's a couple of injuries that are a bit worrisome, but offensively, with or without Jurgens and Brown, you just need to show some sort of continued step in the right direction to have confidence that we can go. Because like you said, right after the bye week, go ahead, get healthy all you want, but you're stepping into gauntlet number 2 of the season where you're going for 4 or 5 games against teams that are plus 2 or 3 games over 500 or at 500. I think we have the Cowboys in that stretch and they're at 500, but obviously we know they're an extremely competitive team. But these teams are plus 2 or 3 games over 500 with very good offenses, and they're going to put your defense to the test. Can your offense stand the test to support the defense? That's what's going to be really interesting to see. And you would hate to have to make the decision to change play callers heading into that gauntlet of games. So it would be really nice to see Kevin Patullo continue to show improvements and show it wasn't just the fact that we got Brett Toth in there who can't snap in shotgun situations that forced his hand to change things in how he runs his offense.
Yeah, and hopefully they don't ask Brett Toth to do things that he's not able to do, like pulling or like trying to do a stretch block or whatnot. Put him in positions to succeed, and also, have Dickerson or Steen help him, blocking Dexter Lawrence if feasible. And hopefully the backs, Shipley wasn't good. So Barkley hasn't been that great this year in terms of blocking in pass protection. Hopefully he's better. But then also let's hope, and it doesn't help, you're going to have a backup center. The right guard is not the greatest. Mailata hasn't been playing well. Dickerson is hurt. And that doesn't help the rushing game. With lanes opening up. But like I mentioned 2 weeks ago, 31 yards on the first 2 carries, and then 27 or whatever it was after that the rest of the game. Keep chugging away at the run game. And what Devontae said last week is, by them getting the passing game going, if they can be consistent with that and show that they can do it, that will kind of force defenses to go back and not continue to stack the box, which should also help the running game. So hopefully, and obviously you mentioned
that was one of the things last year. They had to respect both the passing game and the running game. And whether that was because, Kellen Moore and his ability to get everybody mixed into it, or whether it was the weaponry. But if it's the weaponry, then Kevin Patullo should absolutely be able to do the same things. But you have to respect both facets of the offensive game to force defenses back on their heels. And we haven't been able to do that this year.
Exactly. Just looking for consistency. And get again, I'm not looking for the best offensive performance this week. I'm just looking for a win, going to the bye at 6-2, so that we can start getting some bodies back, and then hopefully Howie adds to the team. What did Alday say? Just win, baby. That's my motto for this week. But it's obviously going to be tougher not having AJ, not having Cam and not having Cam Jurgens out there. I'm glad that he's not risking in terms of AJ. I'm glad he's not risking the hamstring injuries. Can be really, depending on what grade of hamstring injury it is, it could be really, really tough. So give him 2 weeks, give Cam 2 weeks, and go into that Green Bay game on the Monday night after the bye, and rolling at as close to 100% as you can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree. Like, and I mean, I feel like Landon Dickerson's still probably not playing at 100%, but we can't afford to go down another body. But I feel like Landon Dickerson is one of those guys who probably shouldn't have played last week, who probably this week he probably would have been forced to play with the Jurgens injury. But it feels like they're constantly having to pick between Jurgens and Dickerson, who are both Dickerson, I don't think has been right yet this year. And then Jurgens has admittedly said that he's still coming back from the back injury. So then further injuries are just making life so much harder for Cam Jurgens. So it just feels like this is all just uh, coming back to the week one and forcing Landon Dickerson to head out there, or him forcing himself to head out there a week or two too soon. And it's all just catching up, and maybe going to continue to catch up on the injury front. Because, like you said, the only person we can really speak fairly highly and consistently highly of right now is Lane Johnson. But it's really difficult for one side of the line. Like Tyler Steen hasn't been great, but he's been pretty good. And it probably helps that he's got the most consistent piece of the offensive line in Lane Johnson beside him and doing well. But you can't have two guys that have five try and carry the load. You need the other side of the line to get to become more consistent and to get better. Hopefully Jordan Mailata figures it out. I don't know what it is, but like when they show some of the replays, he's just getting it just looks like rookie play. Like he's just getting beat so easy. Things that he used to just gobble guys up, he's getting his hands batted down in a bull rush. And I just don't know what it is with Jordan Mailata and why he can't seem to figure it out and get, he's been the main guy who goes to the media and says we're one block away on the Russian attack. Well, you're multiple blocks away every single game of stopping a potential sack, stopping a hurry, stopping a pressure. And I don't know what it is, why he can't figure it out. But I mean, this offensive line, there's been so many other things to look at, but this offensive line has clearly been one of the most frustrating that we've watched in years. It is so un-Jeff Stoutland like to be watching this and seeing such inconsistency from it.
Yeah, not the best year for, everybody always talks about when the Eagles come in, they always, we prioritize the lines offensively and defensively, but this year, neither of the line, this might be, if you think about it, the Giants might have a better defensive line than the Eagles have this year right now. And I don't think, the Eagles have the better offensive line, but it's not as wide of a margin as it has been. And I talk about on the defensive side, putting the best 11 out there. Well, I wouldn't want to put the best 5 on the offensive line. If that means Drew Kendall starts at center, do that. Or if that means putting Dickerson at center and starting Opeta or Johnson at left guard, do that. Especially if Brett Toth struggles again, be prepared to make a switch. And hopefully that the Eagles have that in plan to be ready in motion. You can't wait, because this is too important of a game for you to sit back and wait and be like, we'll be fine, we'll get to the bye. No, you need to win this game. If Brett Toth is not able to block Dexter Lawrence, if Brett Toth not able to snap the ball, figure it out with somebody else, whether that's Dickerson, whether that's Kendall, whoever it is, figure it out, because Brett Toth may not be the answer. He's not that good of a football player. They've cut him 5 or 6 times for a reason. I don't know why they keep bringing him back, but it's annoying as hell.
I guess, knowing the offense helps. Those types of things help. But I mean, at some point, you just have to look in the mirror and say, how much longer do we want to continue to punish ourselves with a player who's this poor at the position? He's fine to have his, your third option, but he's clearly proven he's not a viable second option at left guard or at center. So, I mean, I agree with you. I hope they have a backup plan prepared. I kind of wish they had the backup plan ready to go. Like, this is a perfect opportunity to get your eyes on what can Kendall bring to this team. Is he the backup center? What else can we do with him? Like, it just feels like that at some point you have to turn the page on certain guys and say, let's get a look at this guy who we drafted. Let's get a look at some of these other pieces that we have and see if we can make them work, see if they're going to work in this offense and how we can maximize them in this offense. Before we move to, we to our predictions and everything, and to our unheralded player of the game, they did drop the. I want to get your take on the fines that were handed down on the New York Giants for their, rather odd situation that occurred during the concussion protocol where Cam Scadaboo entered the tent and Brian Daboll entered the blue tent. So the team got fined $200,000, Brian Daboll $100,000, Cam Scadaboo $15,000. What was your take on this? Like, it's such an odd situation, but imagine how much pressure that applies to a team doctor and to that independent neurologist when all of that has happened. And I just wanted to get your take on it, just since it happened, and it happened in a game against us.
I don't really have a take on it. I mean, it's a dumb coach doing dumb things. So, and Cam Scadaboo's not the brightest person in the world. So, I mean, are we surprised? No. The one thing about when Scadaboo did it, I feel like he was just checking on his teammate, and they're probably grown close because they're both rookies. But Brian Daboll isn't a great coach, and he's the way he handled that was obviously bad. But other than that, I mean, it is what it is. They got penalized, and it's time to move on from it.
I agree. I mean, I think it's like you said, Brian Daboll is definitely not the brightest coach. Why he was even given another opportunity, whatever he sold to Mara and whoever else makes the decision on who stays as a coach, I don't know. But even like once somebody goes into that blue tent, you stay away from the blue tent. If you want to check on your guy, he's gonna come out at some point. He's gonna come out, and you can check on him then. But I mean, it's just you got to respect the rules. You got to understand the rules in that situation, no matter how bad of a Russell Wilson pass occurred after the fact. And I'm not. If Dart could not return to that game, it wasn't changing the outcome. So that
actually, it might have. It actually might have changed the outcome.
Maybe, but unlikely.
They weren't down 17 points. They weren't down 17 points when he went out the game, and Russell Wilson sucks. So I don't think it. I do think it does change the outcome of the game if it was Russell Wilson. All right, so let's move in. We're going to move forward. We're going to do our players of the game, a key or two to the game. Well, then we'll go to our unheralded player, and then we will go to our prediction. I'll let you go first, Connor, with your offensive and defensive players and keys to the game.
Key to the game on offense is consistency. You've seen bits and pieces of what can work for this team. Put it into play. If that's doing more, play action, do more things from under center, whether that's because of Brett Toth or whether that's because you saw due to Brett Toth, you can make things happen from under center, and there are plays you can call and you can find a lot of success. It doesn't matter. You found bits and pieces of success in different things. Let's find some consistency, make them respect both facets of your offense for a change, because no team has been forced or needed to respect both facets of your offense. And you can tell in the way that they stack boxes. You can tell in when it's shotgun, the way that they do their coverages. They haven't needed to respect it. Make them start to respect it for who you are. The defending Super Bowl champions going for another one, trying to go for another one. You need to figure this offense out. Player to watch. I mean, seems like a really easy one. I'm going with Saquon Barkley because he needs to make sure he's respected. His number is called. He gets up in Kevin Patullo's face and tells him exactly the same things that an A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith have done to find their consistency, to find their success, and calling their numbers and making sure, I'm here, use me. But here's a situation I think works. Here's some things that I think can work for me. I think that it's important for Patullo to listen to his players. And in situations where he's listened to his players have found some pretty significant success. Defensively, I'm going to go with Joshua Uche. I think that it's going to be really important that they get some sort of pressure and some sort of containment for Jackson Dart. We know that he loves to use his legs. We know that he loves to get out of the pocket. So it's going to be important, for a guy like Joshua Uche, who's actually been a fairly solid, edge rusher for us, given the limited opportunity he's had, and now he's going to be thrust into a fairly large and significant role. I trust Joshua Uche. He has the He's been in the league. He has more of a veteran presence. Jalen Sun, I love Jalen Sun. I'd love to put him in this spot, but we talked about it on the Tuesday episode. He was put into a role he wasn't prepared to do. There's more development to do. There's some really nice things that we've seen, but I feel like Joshua Uche is a guy that can really win from this opportunity to go out there and get a lot more snaps and make some more plays. And then from a defensive perspective, make your tackles. It's plain so fundamentals. Make your tackles, be disciplined. Don't take stupid penalties, because you know this is a Giants team that if they're given 15 yards, they're going to run with those 15 yards. They're not literally, but they're going to run with it, as in they're going to be able to take advantage of those 15 yards that you give them. So just back to the fundamentals, just sound tackling, disciplined football, because you're going to need to, you're going to be relied on in those situations, because there's a good chance, your front four, your edge rushers may not be able to get home because they're pretty light, not the best edge rushers, but we just need to get back to those things that we have been so good at, that we were so bad at against the Giants in the last matchup.
On the offensive side of the ball, I'm going Jahan Dotson as my player of the game, because we know that the Giants are probably going to double team or try to double team Devontae Smith, and they're probably going to, put 7-8 in the box to stop Saquon. And I know Saquon hasn't been the same Saquon as last year, but it just takes one carry, one game, one carry, one drive to get him going. So Jahan Dotson, who's going to be the number 2, he's going to have to step up big. He hasn't had a big play since the first game of the year, the 52-yarder against Dallas. The key on the offensive side of the ball is make the easy plays and stay ahead of the sticks. These having dumb penalties and getting caught in 2nd and long, 3rd and long, we cannot keep going 3 and out and forcing the defense back out onto the field. So stay ahead of the sticks and get Jahan Dotson's going to have to win his matchup against whoever it may be for the Giants. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go Jahad Campbell. He's going to start at linebacker, but he's also going to have to be an edge rusher. He's going to have to be all over the field. And I think it helps obviously it helps with Nakobe Dean back. He had a great game last week. And, Nakobe Dean probably wouldn't have allowed Cam Skattebo to run through him like Cam Skattebo did a couple of weeks ago against the Eagles, running through some tacklers. We know the force that Nakobe Dean is. My key on the defensive side of the ball is force Jackson Dart to be a passer with the weapons that he has on offense. And if the front four can get to him quickly, he should turn the football over. So I'm going to go Jahan Dotson and Jahad Campbell. All right, Connor, your unheralded player of the week for week 7 in the National Football League.
I am going to go with Xavier Legette from the Carolina Panthers. It was an ugly game. I mean, it was a game that the Panthers obviously should have won, needed to win against an 0-6 and lowly New York Jets squad who moved to bench, Justin Fields. But I mean, surprisingly, the Carolina Panthers are at 4-3 and totally there in the NFC, the wide open NFC right now. And Xavier Legette ended up going for 9 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. He hasn't really lived up to, I believe he was a second round draft pick. He hasn't really lived up to the hype of where he was drafted and where.
Connor, you're froze again. Connor. All right. Seems as Connor has frozen. I'm going to give my unheralded player of the week for week 7 in the National Football League. I'm going Joe Flacco. He was 31 of 47, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, 10 days. Been with the Bengals for 10 days. Helped them to come away with a 33-31 victory, a last-second victory, field goal, I should say, over the Pittsburgh Steelers. He targeted Jamar Chase 23 times, and that's exactly what you should do when you have a star receiver. Target him, and Joe Flacco did that. Chase had 16 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. Flacco throwing the ball 47 times for the Cincinnati Bengals after they getting the big win, and after they made the trade. He was only with the team 10 days. They're just trying to stay afloat until about end of November, December, until Joe Burrow comes back. And if Joe EB can come back and they're still in that division race, who knows what's going to happen for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm going Joe Flacco. Now it is prediction time. This is a huge game for the Philadelphia Eagles. It doesn't matter what anybody tells you. That it's the lowly Giants, this, that, and a third. Well, they need to win this game. They're 5-2. They can go to 6-2 going into the bye, puts them in a good spot with at least a two potentially 3-game lead in the division. Jaden Daniels isn't playing Monday night for the Commanders. It's going to be Marcus Mariota. Dallas is going to Denver. Denver's defense is good. Now I know they give up 30 some odd points to the Giants. So we'll see if Patrick Surtain can help. Patrick Surtain, Nick Bonito, and that defense can help slow down CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and the offense for the Dallas Cowboys. But in regards to the Eagles, again, this is a huge game, regardless, like I mentioned, regardless of what anybody tells you. Being able to split this series, I can't believe we're talking about a split. The Eagles should have easily, just shouldn't have been a question on if the Eagles are going to sweep them or not. But here we are, where they're not going to sweep. They're not going to sweep the Giants. So my prediction is 31-17 Eagles. I do think it'll be a close game for the first 2.5 quarters, and the Eagles will start to pull away. They'll get the run game going a little bit. Saquon might not get 100 yards, but he'll get into the 80s. Devontae over 100 yards receiving, and Jalen will get about 250 yards passing. The Eagles will force 2 turnovers, but they win the game 31-17. I'm 3-4 on the year. Connor's 3-4 on the year. I'm on a 4-game losing streak because I just have had a bad time here. So Connor, what is your prediction for the game?
I have it quite a bit closer than you do. I have it 27-21 for the Eagles. I just don't have faith in this offense to continue to put up the requisite points to really blow out and take it to this Giants team. I think they'll keep them too close for comfort, but at the end of the day, I still give them the W. So go Eagles.
So quick question before we finish off: who would it be an indictment on if this offense without AJ Brown comes out and just looks the way that we anticipated them looking? Like, is it because they're facing the Giants and we know the Giants are good and 2 weeks ago was a one-off thing, or is it like Jalen is kind of free? He doesn't have to quote unquote force the ball to AJ. And again, I'm not saying he is forcing the ball to AJ, or AJ is making him force the ball to him. But who do you think that's more of an indictment on?
I know that the media would spin it towards AJ Brown and they're forcing the ball to you because of your diva-like activity and stuff. But I mean, I think it would be more on the New York Giants and the defense. Like Debo is considered arguably their CB1. They're without their CB1. We're without our wide receiver one. The defense is not very good in the first place. Like I said, they rank in the lower third, usually 25th or worse in the majority of defensive categories. I think that's just an indictment on, the Giants and their need to continue to address the secondary and other aspects of their defense than just what they've already addressed with the front four. But I will not fall for that it would ever be an indictment on AJ Brown. AJ Brown, he deserves his looks, he deserves his targets. And like we kind of alluded to on the Tuesday episode, is this just his way of motivating himself and just trolling the media, and he just honestly does not care? He's going to do and say, because if somebody was talking to him like Nick Sirianni, I feel like he would probably stop this. Like, I feel like there's people in this organization he respects that he would listen to. And I don't think anybody's stopping him, because I just think, they think that, this is AJ Brown, this is his way of doing things, and they just let him do it. And he just likes to air things out that way.
Yep, that's probably it. All right. Thank you all for tuning into the Kelly Green Hour. The Eagles are heading into the bye week after the Giants game. We will hopefully the Eagles do not overlook the Giants and they can not afford to. We'll be back Tuesday with a review episode, and then we will take a break before we come back for the following week with the Monday Nighter against the Green Bay Packers. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRoll54, and follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's edition of the Kelly Green Hour.
Fly, Eagles, fly.